Hello, dear readers of my book Azbuka Istini ABC of Truth, and the viewers of my channel. Rus is not just Russia, Rus is the whole world. I would like to inform you that I have uploaded my videos on the new resource Yandex On Air. Now I'm asking you for help in distributing all of my videos from this channel. You also need to subscribe, like, and leave a few comments under each video below. This helps with the distribution of the video. Don't get lazy. Laziness kills us or turns us into mankards. Now there is also a channel in YouTube in English. Today, as I promised you, the film tells you about the Roman Empire, ancient Rus Impera, and the pirates of the Caribbean. I remind you, there is no point in watching my films out of order. It's like loading an incompatible application on one system from another. You need a clear mind and a proper setup from the start. You already know the indisputable facts of the existence of a completely different Rus that modern history presents us. Once upon a time, all the communication routes and fortresses stars around the world were called impera. Let me remind you of the chronology. Rus Impera ended up in its existence on the modern territory of Russia in 1613 with the arrival of the Romanovs. In Kiev, it ended its existence in 1242. Yes, Kiev was then called Kievan Rus for a long time and even fought against the Romanov Muscovy, but the injection of the convenient faith had already been made. There is also an initial injection to the entire planet. This is since the introduction of the Julian calendar 20 years ago, where it is said to be the birth of the Christ. Let me tell you about it in detail. This calendar was developed by a group of the Alexandrian astronomers led by Sosigenes. Alexandria is in the Nile Delta. The calendar is allegedly named after Julius Caesar, by whose decree it was introduced in the interval from 45 BC plus 128 years. They started to call it Julian. Remember, there is Dmitrievska and Yurievska part of the year. Due to the fact that the astrophysical update of the calendar in male summer was cancelled, remember that a year consists of 2 years. The beginning of the solar year from his Christmas was moved to January the 1st, as we have it now. Due to the fact that in the Yurievska part of the year, everything dies, freezes and drifts, sticks are needed. This calendar was called Yurievsky, with a frozen periodic addition of the day of the formal meaning of a leap year. You already know that the Inquisition appropriate names to itself according to it. They encrypt what was done. Julian winter brought in line of nights. The Julian calendar replaced the calendar of Impera Rus, which was based on the exact astronomical science. Sosigen, Greek astronomer, mathematician, and philosopher, lived in the 1st century BC in the city of Alexandria. In the year 0 AD, he was invited by Julius Caesar to Rome to develop the Julian calendar. This is how, supposedly from the birth of Christ, the mechanism of the elimination of Russia around the world was turned on, and Julius Caesar did it. Read about the civil war that Guy Julius organized in the ancient Rome. Read about the Gallic War. Now you know the real motivation and meaning of all these wars based on national fascism. That was the first thing, to take scientific images of Russia and make them into a swastika. It was this national fascism using stupid people that gave birth to sex-glorifying young. Yankees or Yankozy, by the way, are of the same origin. So where does it come from? A century ago, among the British, it was known about the founding of the Tower of London by Caesar. I told that a criminal is exposed with a motive. So the transfer of the prime meridian to London from the Nile-Lapland alignment is the motive. You can also ask Shakespeare and Handel about their attitude of the British to Julius Caesar. You also can read about who Plutarch is. See the world-building art trickster. The chronological framework of the existence invented retroactively by the Roman Empire covers the period from the reign of the first emperor, Octavian Augustus, to the division of the empire into Western and Eastern, and the subsequent fall of the Western Roman Empire. That is, from the 0 year, the western part existed from this moment to the 476th year. The eastern part of the Roman Empire with its capital in Constantinople existed for another 977 years, until 1453. The western part of the Roman Empire has been revived since 962 as the Holy Roman Empire, and from 1512 as the Holy Roman Empire of the German nation, which existed until 1806. In 962, the empire was restored by the Germanic king Otto I, and was seen as a direct inheritant of the ancient Roman Empire and the Frankish Empire of the Charlemagne. Remember it once and forever. There were 3 different formations. Until the year 0, there existed Rus Impera, atheistic, astrophysical, scientific Rus. From the year 0, ancient Rome, invented in retrospect as a pseudo-paganism with the swastika of national fascism. Since 962, the Holy Roman Empire, which since 1512 lost Rome, but still was called the Holy Roman Empire, only of the German nation. In the early period of its existence, the Holy Roman Empire had the character of a feudal theocratic state, and the emperors claimed supreme power in the Christian world, distributing feeders for the anointed. The meaning of the empire at that time was in the eviction of the Holy See and the centuries, an old struggle for the possession of Italy in order to do everything on behalf of the Vatican. You have read about the investiture. Read now about the crisis of the Reformation, the Ottonian rule, the struggle for the investiture, about the 30 Years' War in Europe, and what the London Concordat is. The Holy Roman Empire lasted until 1806 and was formally liquidated during the Napoleonic Wars, when the Union of the Rhine was formed, and the last emperor, Franz II of Habsburg, abdicated the throne. In the Holy Roman Empire, the monarchs already claimed the supreme spiritual power on its territory, and the role of the protector, patron of the European Christian Church. The use of the epithet sacred or holy not to the person of the ruler, but to the state formation, and it was an innovation of Emperor Frederick I, nicknamed Barbarossa. By the middle of the 18th century, the empire had lost all its influence in Italy. The emperor lost his prerogatives in the church, and the tendencies towards disintegration actually turned Germany into a conglomerate of semi-independent principalities. It's well known that Voltaire said that the Holy Roman Empire is no longer the Holy Roman or the Empire. In its latest documents, the state was already called the German Empire. The Holy Roman Empire, the monarch bore the title of Emperor, Impera. It was often simply known as the Empire. In Russian documents of the 18th century, the name Caesarea was used. Caesar is a port. Remember, Tsar means a port in Russia. Chebok Sari, Russian city, setting up a tank in the port, that's the meaning. Caesar is the master of the port where the fortress tower was located behind the gulf, on whose arc the governor had already steered. Everything fell apart into many empires, Frankish, Italian. In the 19th century, after the formation of the German and Austrian empires, in relation to them, the old empire or First Reich began to be used as a pseudo-predecessor. That is how the Yankees, the Slavs, the First Reich are one of the same, national fascists. I repeat once again, in Russia there was a teaching of the words yan in, then this word was slightly perverted, changed, and put into the service of the Inquisition. We are Slavians, not Slavs, not to be confused with the young praise sect. This is a fundamental difference. It was after the Romanov Cup and the Nikon reform the Christian priest opened Slavic academics and replaced the foundation of root Russianness. Also, during Nikon's reform, para-literal Christianity was replaced by Orthodox Christianity. Those who glorified Jan, the First Reich, was a hindsight fiction. So, there's the author application of the epithet Sacred Rome to the Roman Empire. Emperor Frederick I, nicknamed Barbarossa, did this. The main task of the empire was the destruction of the Spaniards, apparently not sacred giants. Giants are fallen biblical characters, out of the line, fallen out of the boundaries of the line of sacredness from Russian language. Read for yourself what the Apocrypha of the Inquisition says about them. Fallen from the realm of the gods of the empire, Nephilim, Obra, Bogotiri, Atlanteans, and even Rephaim, all those who were later destroyed by the tribunal of the Holy Spanish Inquisition. They gave themselves away, and the sacred Roman Inquisition made them sun worshippers, as opposed to themselves. Although they were just scientific people of the astrophysical calendar and the teaching of the words yan in from Impera-Rus. Look for the unfamiliar words in the reference books and remember the Goza Revolution. This is how the army of pirates of the Fusan region was replenished. So who is Barbarossa? Frederick the First Hohenstaufer, born in 1122. In the Weingarten Monastery in Swabia. He died in 1190 on the Salif River, now the territory of Turkey. He was king of Germany since 1152 and the emperor of the Holy Roman Empire since 1155. Duke of Swabia from 1147 to 1155 under the name of Frederick III. Ruled in the Roman Empire. He allegedly received the nickname Barbarossa in Italy because of his reddish beard, from the Italian barba, beard, and rossa, red. But in Italian, ginger is fulvo and rosso is red. And not the way they tell you about the color, about the pseudo-Russian Slavs. And you already know about br is blau, destruction. For example, Barbary is a marinade from the word pestilence. Pestilence is bacteria. Bermuda, Bore. Initially there were destructors in bearded Russia, then foreigners started calling them beards. Russia fought under the red banners, then it became Rosa. Here's the Red Army comes from. The primacy of the Russian language is evident. It is the foreigners who look at the Russian banners or Russian heads, Russian flags, and give colors. Remember how the letters O and U were written in Russian. I wrote about the real letters of the canon, the articulation, and about the real meaning of the paganism in Russia. O was like U, but U was written like a small O with ears at the top to distinguish. Look at your lips when you articulate O or U, a large ring and a small ring. These ears are the letter U. So foreigners read Rus as Ros. This proves in which state we live in and who named it. Foreigners. Using the Romanovs, who in general since 1762 actually became the Holstein-Gottorp of the Oldenburg dynasty. So what do we have now? Barbarossa, the destroyer of Russia. The Barbarossa plan of the German attack of the USSR is named after the Frederick I Barbarossa. See? Already the Third Reich, but it's still there. Hitler wanted to make the tale of the First Reich come true of the Third Reich. Barbarossa was involved in organizing several crusades and several campaigns in Spain and Italy. He was a walking nightmare, not a man. It was a schizophrenia of anointing. There is such an island, Barbados, which name comes from the word bearded, but because of the constant trades from the Atlantic Ocean and constant winds. The trade wind is a wind blowing between the tropics all year round. In the northern hemisphere from the northeast, in the south from the southeast. Parallel winds. Remember, a sliding line, what is the name of the north wind? Boreas. And in what language is Bora also wind? That's how they lie to you every time. Read DOS and dog, and everything will fall into its places. Wind dog. I wonder if you remember Hector Barbarossa from the movie Pirates of the Caribbean. What was associated with this name among directors and screenwriters who made him the main antagonist of good in the first episode? Barbarossa has a pet monkey named Jack. He called him that, wanting to make fun of Jake Sparrow. What meaning did the directors and screenwriters use for this joke? What truth did they know when they wrote the script for this franchise? In the previous film about the American Confederation of Russia, I told who the Confederates really were. Privateer pirates who served in the fortresses stars of Russia, who mainly built star fortresses behind the Gulf, whose crew of the rescue ship was headed by the captain, privateer governor with the Russian star on his chest. Please help me to distribute this video. Order the book personally from me and I will sign it for you. If you sit straight on your ass waiting for the next movie, nothing good will happen in your life. Start it with your owner. Do everything possible and impossible in order to make the difference, to change the world. This is already my 30-second film, but how many films have you watched? How many films have you sent to your friends? Ask yourself this question. What have you done for the honor and memory of your ancestors, thanks to whom you live? What have you learned yourself? And what have you taught the people around you? Is there a meaning in your life? May all blessings come to your family.